So, what would you do if you could just wave your hand and anything you want, it was possible? Well, let's find out what this guy did. So today, you're back with another film review, and I'm going to be talking about a film called Absolutely Anything. So, for a lot of you probably haven't heard of this film. It came out in 2015, comedy sci-fi. It's got Simon Pegg in it, so maybe a couple of you have seen this film. But basically, the concept of the film there is a guy called Neil Clark, and basically he gets given powers to do whatever he wants. Now, let me run you through how the story starts. Basically, they have a spaceship launching and they sent off a drone or something out into outer space. Eventually, aliens collect it, a superior species, and they see the drone, and then they decide, before they destroy the planet, they have to give the power of anything to a human being. It randomly selects Neil. And he basically gets given the power and he doesn't realise what's happening at first. Like, he doesn't know he's got given the power, it just happens. But the first time we see Neil is he's accepting an award for a book that he's wrote. They're like announcing it, and he's being very humble, speaking about his speech. Wakes up, it's a dream. He's barely even started his book. He's got a dog called Dennis, who I'll get back to later. And he's obsessed with his downstairs neighbour, which Catherine, which is played by Kate Beckinsale. But yeah, so he's obsessed with his neighbour, Catherine. He is a school teacher and he basically hates his job. So then he's just in school one day, and this is how we sort of realise is that he goes into school and literally one of his friends, Ray, is essentially talking to him like, what would you do if you could do anything? And Ray says, I would make that girl worship me. And he's like, you take advantage of a poor girl like that? And then he's just like, and then he's like, I'd destroy everyone in 4C, which is his classroom with alien spaceships. He does that, he waves his hand, whole thing gets destroyed, and that's when he's confused. He gets home and he's like, oh, he can't believe what's happened, what the destruction has caused. He starts to, and then he thinks he can do anything, but he's not quite sure. He's like, no, it can't be, it's just a dream. And then he waves his hand, he's like, a dog mutt, clean yourself up. It just does, and he's so confused. He go get some whiskey, he drinks it, and then he's like, whiskey, get back in the bottle. And then he's like, what the hell's happened here? He eventually asks the whiskey to go exchange himself. He follows the whiskey. Eventually some police come because the whiskey tries to rob a shop, and then he teleports back to his house. So that's when he realizes he can practically do anything. He can run wild with this power. And what does he decide to do with his power? Well, he decides to do a couple things. First thing, one of the first things he does, he goes back to his house, he looks in the bathroom and he's like, big dick, nope, toe big. He just does that, and like, he just messes around, stuff like that. And there are like weird limitations, like he'll say, give me the body of a great man, and then they just give him Albert Einstein's body. That's not what I meant. So there's limitations to with the power, or how specific the power wants to be. So eventually, Catherine's ex-boyfriend, who is like a US Army guy, keeps following her around, keeps obsessing about her, stalking her so much, and eventually when she's having dinner with Neil, I don't know why I want to keep calling him Derek, but that's the dog's name, Dennis is the dog's name. Eventually when he goes to dinner, this guy like comes in and tries to stop their dinner and like starts wanting to have fights. She eventually leaves and he keeps waving his hand, doing different things, showing off the power. And then his dog distracts him, Dennis, because he made Dennis talk and now he's just talking to Dennis. And eventually this guy gets hit in the head of the plant, and then the guy takes him away, locks him up, and has a gun to the dog's head. He's like, you read this list and wave your hand and fill in these demands for me. So he has to keep doing it until Catherine and Ray come and save him, which they eventually do. And then he eventually escapes by just waving his hand, but with a distraction. Eventually escapes, everything gets back undone, but then his two friends sort of hate him. Where's one friend? And then so my girlfriend hates him now, or a girl he's not out with, that's probably a better way to phrase it, hates him now. So he eventually goes back to his apartment, and he doesn't know what to do. He's like, he thought he was being selfish, so he decides to try and wave his hand and make anything. He's like, stop global warming, stop war, make everyone have as much food as they want, like world hunger and stuff like that. He looks on the news. It turns out that's just made things worse. Like obesity was high. Everyone who's homeless had a place to live. They were just like building it everywhere, like the Sahara Desert, and places that you shouldn't. He reversed global warming, meaning it got a lot colder than what it should have done. And then with war, apparently just random wars broke out. So, because he wasn't like super specific, so he just undid all that he did. Now, in the interim in each one, you see the aliens and stuff talking about the guy, why Earthlings are inferior species, why they should be destroyed. Eventually, once they do get to that point, they're like, oh, let's destroy the species, and they're working on the machines and stuff to try and destroy Earth. Neil is talking with his dog Dennis, and he basically says how bad his powers made everyone hate him and made Catherine hate him. So Dennis says, just give me the powers, and that's what he does. He transfers the powers to Dennis because he can do whatever he wants. And Dennis just says, whoever gave me these powers, or whoever this was these powers, destroy the source. And then that eventually destroys the alien spaceship, and no one ever knows about that there's an alien spaceship. And then everything goes back to normal for him. Now, this is quite a normal for me. It didn't get great reviews. It has a 6 out of 10 on IMDb, which is not terrible. It has 18% on Rotten Tomatoes and 31% on Metacritic. I think it's a decent film. I think it's a very decent watch for just a general night. If you're not too sure movie, you want to see a comedy, maybe you want to see something with just Simon Pegg in it, and you've seen Hot Fuzz a million times and you want to see something different. This is not bad. To be fair, this isn't a terrible movie. I didn't really get bored watching it. It's a bit of entertainment. Maybe it's not the most interesting movie, but it's a bit of fun, I would say. In terms of a star rating, I can't really give it. My average is normally 7. I'm going to give it a 6.5. It's not one I'd constantly watch, but it's a decent film. I don't think it deserves as bad. I mean, I know I only gave 6.5 out of 10, and IMDb gave 6, but I definitely think it's a movie worth watching if you haven't seen it already. What would I do if I could just wave my hand and everything would happen? I might do a lot of things, but one main thing I do is make sure everyone who actually watched this film review subscribe. Let's see if it works. Yeah, I think that works. So hopefully all of you will subscribe now, and I will see numbers flowing. But until that day, I'll see you for another video another time. Alright then, bye.